For the Yemeni youth movement in the UK, but he's here with us now. Muhsen, thanks very much for coming in. So it's a curious thing, isn't it, this departure, which is not really a departure, and which also leaves President Saleh's son in control at home. What do you make of it?
Exactly. Well, this is not what the revolution is all about. The youth revolution in Yemen came in to put an end to this corrupted military regime. 33 years under its leadership of corruption, poverty. So the youth had enough. So they wanted to form a new government based on democratic, free election, fair election, and where the Yemeni people can choose who to lead them.
Now, the vice president in charge at the moment, and interestingly, he is a man who some of the tribal leaders have put forward as a candidate to actually sort of form some sort of transition government. Would you be happy with something like that? This man, I think, is Abdul Rabu Mansour, isn't he, Al-Hada?
You see, we don't mind him for a short period of time.
Even though he's so closely linked to the regime of President Saleh?
Yes, we see him as a common person that we can, to run the country for a short period of time until the country is prepared for fair election where the Yemeni people can choose who to lead. So, but what's happening on the ground in Yemen is not the vice president that is leading the country, is the president's son, Ahmed, who is in charge of the army, and this is against the constitution of Yemen. The power should be transferred to the vice president, who should lead the country on the absence of the president. Now, the Yemeni people are not very happy about this, and they wanted to continue this protest until they put an end to this regime, and until we the youth can take part in the reform and shaping the economy of our country.
But in terms of the actual youth movement, I mean, we've seen the way that worked in Tunisia, we've seen the way it worked in Egypt, not just youth, but obviously that sense of the young people really being at the front of these demands for democracy. Here the situation is very different. I mean, he left the country nominally because of an injury. Do you think it's as coordinated? Do you think, I mean, does it work as cohesively in Yemen, do you think?
Yes. In Yemen, people in Yemen, they are so determined to build the country after the president will go.
I mean, what are you doing now in terms of blocking his return, if that's the first step?
Exactly.
Can you do that?
Well, we call in the international community, we call in the regional, the Gulf countries, especially Saudi Arabia, to put more pressure on the president to transfer power peacefully, because we don't want violence. And even though we, the youth, we have no hands on what's happened to the president, and himself, he declared that. He said there's nothing to do with the peaceful protesters.
I mean, President Saleh, just briefly, President Saleh's point is that if he steps down, a vacuum will be left, which will be filled by Al-Qaeda in Yemen. I mean, how serious is that scenario?
You see, we acknowledge there is a president of Al-Qaeda in Yemen, but we believe that he's been exaggerating this to make sure that he gets support from the British, from the American, so he can stay in power. But we are so determined not to leave our country in a mess. We will solve the economy. The Yemeni people are, the will of the Yemeni people, they wanted to build Yemen where Yemen can play a positive role in the region, and we can build a democratic, because we believe the interest of the Western government to be with the Yemeni people, not with the corrupted regime, because the regime will go one day or another, But the Yemeni people are there, and they wanted to build a strong connection with the West based on common interests, based on, we will deal with Al-Qaeda. We don't want any trouble in our country. We wanted to solve the mess. But we are not going back from this, because we wanted to build a real democracy in our country, a freedom. We want to bring prosperity to Yemen. We want to build the economy, to sort out, invest in health, invest in education, where there's no much for the extremists to recruit for Al-Qaeda.
Okay.
We wish you well, Muhsen Bin Jalal. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So just bring